A long time ago lived a great king, and he had quite the kingdom. It was the best in the nation. However, in just 3 days, war would strike. But he knew that he had the advantage. He had defeated death, respawning infinitely, and having the regeneration of the gods, being able to heal indefinitely. And with all this was the greed of the king. And his son, Imhotep, knew that this was wrong and set off on a journey to find the solution. This is 100 Days Ultra Hardcore, and yes, I am on my phone and I'm recording this with my AirPods. So let's see how this turns out and if I can survive the full 100 days. Proving the worth of the great Imhotep. So it began, the great journey of Imhotep. And on day 0, I punched trees and got some real bloody knuckles from that. But looked around spawn and nothing too impressive. It was the average spawn. And by the end of day 0, I had traveled around 700 blocks and set up camp for the night at a ruined portal, finding a couple of pieces of armor as well as food for my journey. To start day 1, I woke up, grabbed the rest of the materials from the ruined portal, and finally grabbed my stuff, ate a little bit, and set off on my journey. Later in this day, I found a ocean monument, which will be very helpful later. And then I stumbled across a shipwreck, and it seemed to be wide open for the taking. And so, with some little scouting, I was able to see that the drown was far enough away, and so I dove. Seeing that the loot was right here, it was going to be easy. Go in, grab it, and come back out. And so I grabbed it, but realized the drown was right behind me. And then I got hit twice, not being able to escape through the window. I was on 2 bubbles and then took a tick of drowning, being left with only 4.5 hearts. This was bad, and this was the first real UHC experience. On day 2, I finally found it, the Oxeye Daisy, the one thing that will save this series early game, because when mixed with a brown and red mushroom in a bowl, it creates suspicious stew. And if you all don't know, this particular suspicious stew has the powers of regen. With this in mind, I collected as many Oxeye Daisies that were around and was able to regenerate a little bit. But I was still at a deficit, and the true meaning of Ultra Hardcore really came to fruition in this moment. It was going to be a hard, long journey to finally find what I was looking for. Later that day, I came across an ice spikes biome, which would be very useful, so I took a screenshot and went on to a shipwreck. After more traveling, on day 3 I found it. What I was looking for, a village. And it will prove to be very useful throughout this series, and hopefully bring me to and past 100 days. And then I went and looted the buried treasure, also finding a ruined portal to end day 3. On day 4, I made sure all the villagers were safe, boxing them in. I also looted the village and grew a tree. Day 5, I started for my big project, or at least the big project of this 100 days. I was going to break down all of the houses from the village and use them for my starter base. And this would turn out to take quite some time, but I realized it would be worth it at some point. And so from day 5 all the way through day 8, which I continued to deconstruct these houses, but figured it would be a nice time lapse to show the work that went into this build, and also talk a little bit about what this channel is going to have in the future and what I'm really going to do with it. For starters, I just want to get this clear straight off the bat. I'm just having fun here. That's all that this really is. Just going to have some fun creating some YouTube videos. Hopefully you'll have fun watching them, because it's a lot of fun creating them and seeing you all post comments, like, and hopefully subscribe a little bit too if you would like to. But I'm not too worried about that. I'm not expecting to have this channel grow to millions of subscribers. I just want this to be, a little fun hobby for me. And in terms of content wise, I'm looking more towards redstone and automation, tutorials if you would all like that. But for now, it's all Bedrock Edition because I'm a little bit broke. But for the time being, got to work with what we got. And in terms of the video here, I was trying to save all the windows to keep the windows for the build because I was gonna have the same amount of windows from the village in my build, but then I realized that it wouldn't be a good idea, so you'll see me destroy them later. But also, I really want to get better at building and PvP, so you'll see some videos about that. But most of the time, it's just going to be a funny video of me getting destroyed by other people doing PvP or just making a build that's not really the best looking. And hopefully, you all think that my starter base turns out okay because I'm pretty proud of it, to be honest. It's one of my better builds, but I know in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really look too good. So, I did my best and it was a lot of fun making it. So I hope you all enjoy the building process. And from here all the way until day 12, I kind of just keep on destroying these village houses and getting materials for my starter base. On day 12, I'd made a lot of progress tearing down the village houses for my starter base, and I also found this white stallion, which was one of the fastest horses I've ever seen. Tamed first try, and man, this thing was really fast, and it would be very helpful in the future for traveling. Later that day, I continued to tear down houses, and I found this pretty interesting. Not sure if you all knew about this, but as I was mining the blacksmith, I realized that it actually has an attic, which is kind of cool. It's a little tiny space, but I thought it was fun facts of Minecraft. Not sure if you all enjoyed it or not, but you know, I thought it was pretty cool. Also, here I changed my FOV, so I apologize for the change in the camera shots, but I could not see a thing when I was playing, so figured it was appropriate to change it. And by the end of day 12, the village was looking pretty empty, and it was finally time to sleep. Or so I thought. There was a creeper, and my PvP skills aren't great, as I mentioned. So it blew up. Luckily, I didn't hit my stuff, but then I was faced with a problem. When I went to bed, my mine behind my bed had spawned monsters. And there it was. The skeleton came out of the mine shaft. And then I was faced with a problem. One, I'm bad at PvP, and two, skeletons on Bedrock Edition have extreme aim. And I'm also on ultra hardcore. So I don't gain any hearts. Another scary situation, but I realized that with my shield, I was able to block all its hits and defeat it with ease. But then there was another skeleton that came out of the mine, as well as a spear zombie. And I got really lucky this time because the skeleton hit both the spear zombie and the zombie with armor. So it was an easy fight, and I wasn't too worried. Just got the heart racing a little bit, but at the end of the day, we killed these guys and went to bed. In the morning of day 13, I knew there was probably mobs down there, and I was right. But I definitely needed to get a fix for this. So I was going to try to go down there myself and kill all the mobs down there and light it up. But then I saw a zombie behind me and it had full iron armor. So it wasn't a tough fight, just continued to battle it out and eventually killed the zombie. But then I was faced with the problem that there was a skeleton and who knows what else down there. But I just left it alone and figured it would be all right. And this time I was a little bit smarter about it. I took my bed, went away, and slept. On day 14, I started by destroying the mimic mob grinder that I made right behind my bed. What started out as a mine turned out to be a trap for myself. So I knew that I needed to eliminate it right away. And so I took my time, as I always do in UHC, and I went down there knowing that I would have to face the skeleton once again. But it was pretty easy, just took my time, was a little patient, and I knew that from this point on, this mine would be not an area of uncertainty and damage, but I would make a mushroom farm here and make sure that I would have health and an eternity of suspicious stew. The rest of day 15, I used to clear out this area, and on day 16, I made a carrot farm and I continued to break down houses as well as make a composter to get bone meal for more oxeye daisies, brown mushrooms, and red mushrooms so I can get more suspicious stew and finally get back to 10 hearts because ultra hardcore on 6 hearts is not preferable. And so I went down, broke some torches, and I had my very first red mushroom. Once I grew this red mushroom, I chopped it down real quick and then I proceeded to grow a brown mushroom. So from here, it was smooth sailing. I was able to make as much suspicious stew as I had bone meal. On day 17, I found a wandering trader, which was actually really good because it sold me a cherry grove blossom, which I really love that wood type. Actually awesome to build with. And then later that day, I found that the red mushroom had spread, a mechanic that I didn't even know existed. From there, I continued to break down villager houses, and I collected sand on day 21, made some more oxeye daisies with bone meal, and then I started the last part of tearing down the village, replacing all the path blocks for dirt. And so on day 22, I collected more dirt, and on day 23, I expanded my carrot farm. And then day 24, I found another wandering trader, which was really good. Got some pale moss. And then on day 24, I continued to get more dirt, terraform. Day 25, I found this massive cave, which that'll be something to explore in the future. Day 26, I terraformed the riverbank. And finally, I made some stone bricks and all the materials that I would need to start my starter base. This is all the materials that I ended up with after tearing apart the village. And here is where we're going to build. It's exciting stuff, and I'm hoping that I can build something good. And the plan is that I'm going to have two sides. One side is going to be a stone side, and then the other side is going to be made out of wood. So it's going to be like a reflection of the original village. Uh, and hopefully, the concept turns out. And I think it did for the most part. I'm pretty excited to show you all how it went, but I know that is definitely not a great build, but I think I'm pretty happy with it, and hopefully it'll be a great base for the future of this. On day 30, I continued to building a little gazebo out of wood on the side of the house, and some more plans for this to explain further. The one side with wood is going to have a ton of different builds layered on top of each other, and so is the side with the stone. So I want this to look like a little messy base type thing. And then in the middle, I'm going to have a huge arc with windows so that it separates the two sides. And there's like a stark contrast, if that makes sense. And so on day 32, I finished the gazebo and I was pretty happy with how this started. I really think that the texturing with the wood was a really good touch, and with the stripped logs as well. And went through the gate, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But I wasn't quite sure about that little corner there. If you all saw that, all you builders. But then I added a table and chair because I'm gonna be the only one in this world. So yeah, that's exciting. And then after that, I continued to build, making a house on top of the gazebo, adding to that jumbled feel. And on day 35, I continued to add details to it to make it look like it's a complete build and to add some texture and layers to it. And there you have it. This is the complete build. And this is about a quarter way through the entire starter base. So it's exciting stuff, and I really like how this turned out. I forgot to record from day 35 to day 41, but I built a little platform on top of the house and proceeded to make this tunnel-like structure, which I thought was a really cool touch. Just another oddity of this build. And then I thought it would be appropriate to make a tent. And the plan for this is that I'm going to have my valuables inside of the tent. So a little uh, odd placing there, but I really like it. And I think it actually turned out really good. And like I said, I'm not a builder by any means. And, I think that this is good for me. But obviously, if you have any tips and suggestions, I'm really open to it because I really need to improve upon it. And I realize that, it's not my strong suit. And I'm really open to getting better at building. And hopefully, I'll continue to upload more videos. And then after that, the wood side was complete. And as the days progressed, I made progress on the stone side. My goal here was to make like a battery type thing, but it turned out to be more of a temple like structure. And then after that, I found this wandering trader, which was actually really good. Sold brown mushrooms and blue ice, I believe. So this was quite the wandering trader. I was actually really surprised. After that, on day 56, I made the mine, which I was going to have be just a giant hole in the ground, a quarry. It's going to have all my strip mines and everything attached to it. And then I continued to mine until day 57. And this is how it turned out. I'm pretty impressed with myself here. And I really like how this turned out. And from there, on day 58, I started work on the main project of this side, the factory. I wanted it to be on top of all the rest of the builds, so it looked a little awkward and structurally incorrect, I guess, or like it would fall down at any moment. And on day 59, as you can see, I struggled doing parkour. I am on my phone and I don't really play on my phone very often, so this could get interesting. Then I forgot to record again, but on day 60, I completed the structure of the factory, and now I just needed to add a couple of details, some windows, some supports, and all that jazz. After that, when I was going back to get the materials for this, I realized that the lava pool was obsidian. The water I'd placed to get around had leaked all the way to the lava, so I guess there's no going to the nether anytime soon. But hopefully, I'll be able to trade with villagers or something, I'm sure. So here is about halfway through the details of this. I figured out to add some smokestacks, I guess, or antenna looking things. I mean, it's really not the best right now, but I'm hoping that you all like it once it's complete. On day 66, I gathered some more bone meal, used that bone meal to get a ton of oxide daisies. And then I continued to farm, get more bone meal, and repeat the process to make sure I have as much healing as I can. On day 66, I had done it. The factory was complete, and I was really impressed with how this side turned out. I also got distracted by a wandering trader, but that's besides the point. I think that this side looks pretty good. And at first, I wasn't convinced because I thought that the factory was just missing something, but I couldn't figure out what. But, I was pretty impressed. So then I went inside, and then I realized that all the entrances didn't have an actual entrance. So I had no way of getting into these builds or out of these builds, and I wasn't sure how to do it. So then I just left it blank. I thought that it was going to be a good idea to just keep it like an open concept, if you will. So yeah, I was really excited at the future of this world in this moment because I realized that, I'd be able to make other cool builds like this, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to make a huge base, and it'll look real cool, hopefully. But here's all the entrances. Actually, I just made some stairs and some doorways and whatnot. And then on day 69, as I continued to work on the base, I went off to explore a little bit, and then I found my horse, my long lost horse, all the way from long time ago when I tamed it. I never found it, and I lost it somehow, but here it is, and it's fast as ever. Jumps high and everything. So I'm really excited that I found this because it'll be very useful in the future. You all see, and yeah, so I made sure that this time I wouldn't lose it. Tied up to my fence post, and then on day 70, I went out and explored like I was going to. I wanted to find a good area to make my automation district for the future. And I also found an ice spikes on the way, if you all saw that real quick. And yeah, it was a really big ocean, surprisingly. So I'll have a lot of room to work with, which is exactly what I want. Because in the future, what I'm planning on building is a farming district that covers the four simulation chunk distance. But enough of that. On day 70, same day, I found another shipwreck. And here we are again. Same old story. It was a shipwreck back in day one. And here it is again. So I knew that I had to heal up just in case. But my plan was I would go in there and get it real quick and come back out. And then I saw a drown. So I knew immediately I had to get out of there because did not want to have another situation where I would get down to four hearts or less. And while I was boating away, I saw in the water there was a zombie nautilus. So this definitely could have ended up really bad if I wasn't careful. So I'm glad I left that situation. And then I just grinded some sand, which is what I originally came out here for. I found a really good wandering trader with this enchanted iron pickaxe and brown mushrooms. So looks like wandering traders sell a lot of brown mushrooms. So if I carry emeralds on me, that would be a good way to get mushrooms in a pinch. But unfortunately for now, I didn't have any emeralds, but this was a really cool wandering trader. And then on day 71, I smelted all of the sand into glass so that I can have enough to build the window part of my starter base because I was planning on having the whole entire thing be glass. And then while I was chopping the tree, I found this really cool shot of my base with the sun and everything. And then I lowered my FOV a little bit and I thought it was looking pretty cool. So glad I got that shot. And yeah, it's as the sun lowered, I realized it was a nice base. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. And day 72, farmed some carrots, made some more bone meal, and then I accidentally punched this pig. I tried to feed it, but unfortunately I punched it. And then I used bone meal to get more oxide daisies, and I placed the doors. So it was officially a base, a house, if you will. And I added the doors and went to bed. Then on day 74, I was halfway through the window, and my plan was going to be to have half normal glass and then half light gray stained glass. But then I realized that I could have had like a gradient type vibe, I guess, through the middle. So it looked like they were separating, or the contrast would have been greater, I feel like. And then I found another Wandy tea, but unfortunately, I didn't have the emeralds to get the dark oak because that's a really nice wood type. But in the future, I'll be able to find a dark oak forest somewhere. But for now, On day 75, I continued to build this, realizing that I could have done a gradient eventually, but it was a pretty easy process. I just altered the glass panes as well as the normal glass, and I think it made a really cool effect. It was a little more three-dimensional, if you will, and I always like it when it's a little more textured than just flat, because I often build flat and find myself building flat, but here's the finished build, and it was day 75, so it took a little longer than I initially expected, but I'm so glad with how it turned out. And I really like that I put time into this build, because it was one of the bigger builds for a starter base that I've had in a long time. And usually I don't even build much of a starter base. So I'm glad that I built this. And even if it took 75 days, I think it turned out really well. Then on day 76 and day 77, I worked on the interior, making sure that I knew exactly what materials would go where. And like I said before, the tent was going to be the valuables, which I thought was really funny. And I also liked this door that I made in my house that just went absolutely nowhere. I thought it was a funny addition, and I liked watching the sunset through it actually. So it turned out to be slightly useful. Day 75 through day 80, I finished up the interior as well as worked on the farms. And then on day 81, I went through my base. The patio is going to be all my healing materials. The tunnel is going to be all the mob drops as well as my food. And my house is going to be all the random materials, all the junk chests. And then the factory is going to be all the farming. This battery or temple, whatever you want to call it, is going to be for my furnace and fuel and everything. And then the quarry, I figured, should just be blocks. But I wasn't sure about this choice about putting wood and everything in there. But I figured for the top layer, it would make sense. And as it went deeper, I was planning on just having it be the quarry materials and everything that came from there. Later that day, I took old trusty Steed down to the sugarcane farms. From there, I enjoyed a nice sunset on the beach, and I thought that I was doing really good. I figured that I would die within the first 20 days, to be honest. But from there, woke up on day 82, and I sailed off to start the villager breeder. And this was going to be the beginning of the next step of this series. And I hope to come back on complete day 200. But I guess only time will tell if I will be able to do it or not. And this is where stuff got a little bit interesting. I saw some drowns down there, and I was a little bit paranoid because of the events of the past, but I realized that I was probably going to be capable of doing it. So I just dove and hoped for the best. So I went down, grabbed my fences, and then struggled to place them. But eventually I lined myself up, and the drown was following me, but it was all right because I made it up. From there, I proceeded to boat as far as I possibly could from the drown that was coming up, even though I was probably okay, but you know, better to be safe than sorry, I guess. It is ultra hardcore after all. And then continuing that day, I made the villager breeder, and this design is made by Silent Whisper. It was a great tutorial, and I recommend you all go over to his channel and check it out, because I was having a lot of struggles trying to build one of these, and this design worked flawlessly. So I'm really glad that he made this tutorial and built this farm, because otherwise I would be struggling trying to design my own. But here's the design in creative mode. I went to this world multiple times for reference to try and build it, and it's not too complex once you know follow the tutorial, I guess. But uh, unfortunately, I was on my phone, so I couldn't reference the tutorial at all. Uh, and then on day 83, I got attacked by this drowned a little bit. Got hit once, but it was alright. Just lost one heart. It'd be one suspicious too. But, it's always those drowns in this series. From here on out, this world got a little bit interesting. And little did I know that this would take a turn very, very fast. So on day 83, I went to check on the villagers and bring them to their place in the villager breeder. But when I opened it, it was a zombified villager. Because I had not put a torch in there, eventually, zombie had spawned right in there and made the villager a zombified villager. And then I went to check the other one, desperately hoping that at least one of them would have been not zombified. And I was right to get one of them. But unfortunately, I wasn't going to be able to get two of them. So, what this meant is I wouldn't be able to make the villager breeder operate. So, this was going to be a very interesting couple of days. Because at first, I thought that it would be best to wait the night out and try to get myself a witch so that it can throw a weakness potion onto the zombified villager and I can cure it with a golden apple. And I realized that this would be hard, but I figured if anyone could do it, it would be me. And I was so close to beating this challenge, I realized that it needed to be a little bit interesting. So from there, I made myself a trap so that I could hopefully lure the witch inside of it and get myself an isolated witch so that I could wait the night out so that all the other mobs could burn or despawn. And then from there, I just waited until nighttime in the quarry. And from there, I realized that it might get pretty interesting if my base wasn't properly lit up. So I lit my base up properly with torches, and hopefully in the future it'll get better lighting. But then it was my first night. And note, I have never been awake at night during this whole entire series. So this could definitely get pretty interesting. But with my elevation, I should be okay for the night. Very early in the night, I had saw it. There was a witch in the corner of my screen. And then my plan was to shoot it with an arrow so that it wouldn't despawn in 30 seconds, meaning I can go to sleep, come back, and the witch would still be alive. But unfortunately, I only had two arrows. So what this meant is I needed to hit one of these shots. And the witch was far away, so it would be definitely difficult to hit. The first shot was off, and I couldn't really tell if it hit or not, but I was sure that it didn't. And so I had one more shot to hit the witch and secure my villagers, but I had missed. In a scramble to try and go to sleep and get back to the witch, I had fallen, safely getting back up, but I realized that the witch would probably have already despawned by the time I had gone over to my bed. But I tried it anyway, walking over only to realize that the witch had despawned. Later that day, I went down and saw that a ton of mushrooms had spread. And this was definitely going to be pivotal if I was going against a witch that could bring me all the way down to half a heart. So I harvested more mushrooms and I went back to my quarry to keep working while the day chugged on. From there, I opened up the layer that had the huge cave from earlier. That night, I continued to look for witches until I had seen it. I had one more shot left at getting this witch and securing my villagers for the villager breeder. This was definitely a turning point in the series, and I needed to hit that shot, but unfortunately I didn't. And then this is where I got a little more smart this time. Instead of going back to my bed, which would have had the witch out of range and despawned it immediately, I brought my bed closer and then slept. making all the rest of the mobs burn in the daylight, but the witch was still alive, meaning that I had one more shot at this. And this was definitely one of the climaxes of this whole video. And you'll see that this gets really interesting really quick because the witch is one of the most dangerous mobs early game for me because I can't heal and the witch can throw poison that takes me all the way down to a half a heart. So I had to be extremely careful going into this. With that in mind, I dug a hole to make a little bit of a trap for the witch so I can aggro it, have it follow me, and hit it into the hole. But unfortunately, I couldn't really pull aggro. And then finally, I did. I saw it coming after me, but it wasn't following me for some reason. And when I got closer again, it had hit me with poison. The one spell that I could just not handle because of the healing intensive efforts that it required. And then I went closer to try and lure it again, but it hit me with slowness this time. And I was depleting health fast. So I needed a fast way to regen, but I just didn't have that. All I had was Suspicious Stew. And then I realized that it probably wasn't worth the whole entire video going to the wayside just to get this witch. And so, sitting on half a heart, I drank as much Suspicious Stew as possible. And as I drank, I meticulously watched the witch stroll all the way over to my house. And right there, I knew that I was in a good position to hopefully secure this witch. But unfortunately, I didn't have enough healing to even get remotely close to full health. So, with an instant damage potion, I was dead for sure. So, all my options was to go on top of my house and see what I can do from above. From there, I continued to heal, knowing that the witch would be right beneath me and it wouldn't despawn anymore. So I had gotten extremely lucky that the pathfinding of the witch brought it right into my hands. And all I needed to do was capture it and make sure that I didn't die in the process because this was even more dangerous than the drown situation back on day one. And I needed to have a way to make sure that it wouldn't kill me and that I would have enough health to secure it in a spot where it can have the weakness effect on the zombie villagers so I can cure them and put them into the villager breeder. And then the plan struck to me. I was going to push the boat over the roof of the gazebo, hopefully capturing the witch in the process. And as I pushed this boat along, I knew that this could be either the savior of the series or the death of it. And with the witch's aggro on me, and it wasn't in the boat, I knew that I only had one option to run off. And I got poisoned again, meaning that I wasn't going to be able to regen at all this time. And so I needed to think fast. And I found a cow somewhat nearby, hoping that the witch didn't despawn. I grabbed the milk and I ran back as soon as I could. However, this was a problem because I was only on 4 hearts, so I knew that I needed to go down and get some mushrooms. But then I realized this was the opportunity of a lifetime. But unfortunately, the witch had already despawned and I had lost. It was over, but thankfully I was alive. So I healed up, grabbing some more mushrooms and preparing for another big night for this 100 days. From there, I realized that I could have another strategy to get a witch. I can use a copper lightning rod to attract the lightning to strike the villager, creating a witch. And with this witch, it would already be contained, so I can use it to splash weakness on the zombie villagers. And then from there, the rest would be history. That night went along as all the nights do. However, this time I was not able to find a witch. On day 87, I harvested carrots, built more traps, and made even more traps. Still making more traps. And I made many, many of these traps and put boats down as well for more traps. After harvesting carrots, it was another night witchless. And then I realized that there was a lot of zombies that were surrounding the only villager that I had alive. So I figured I can make a lava moat and all the zombies would just fall right into it. However, this plan seemed to be pretty flawed when it lit up the whole area and zombies wouldn't spawn anyway. So that was a little bit of an error by me, but I had a lot of healing at this point, so I was ready to get a witch spawn and finally secure what I had been looking for this entire time. This night went on as they usually do, sitting in my corner and looking for any mobs and any witches that could approach. But I was met with a phantom, so I just placed down in bed, went to sleep, but woke myself up short to despawn the phantoms, and the rest of the night I didn't get any witches. So then on day 90, I realized it was too late to try and do this witch shenanigans. So I went ahead and went on a journey to try and find another village that I can bring back villagers and finally begin the automation district. And so I ran off, bumping to the ruined portal from a long time ago. And then I checked the armor real quick just to see, but my armor was surprisingly good for being from loot chests only. And then I crossed the river, going back to the outpost that I had seen earlier, and realizing that there could potentially be a village nearby, as this was a huge plains biome. But with my simulation distance low, it was definitely hard to find one, but I got really lucky and found myself a village. From there, I transported the villagers into the villager breeding area, finally being able to breed villagers. With the second villager in place, I was ready to start a new era of automation. And then I went back to harvest carrots one more time because I really needed them for this villager breeder. And then I set back off on my horse to loot the village that I had found and get as many beds as I possibly could, because I realized that my iron farm would need 40 villagers and thus 40 beds. And then I traveled all the way back, filling in all of my traps. By the end of day 94, I realized that this world was a lot of chance, and I had gotten really lucky to get myself a village instead of having to go through the witch story once again. Then on day 95, I walked around a little bit and went through that gate, which I never went through before, into my completed house. From there, I took a boat with a chest all the way to the villager breeder in order to transfer the carrots from my chest into the villagers so I can get breeding started. From there, I saw a wandering trader again with a pale sapling this time, which would have been really cool because I really love that wood, but unfortunately, I haven't been able to build anything with it. So from there, I took the carrots and gave it to the villagers. I wasn't sure exactly how this worked, to be completely honest, but I started giving the carrots to the villagers, and it seemed to have worked out pretty well, actually. But then by the ninth stack, I knew that it was probably a little too late for them to breed, and something was probably wrong. And so I watched the sunset go down on day 96, knowing that this challenge was nearing to the end. It was a long and great journey, and I'm excited to make it this far, and hopefully in the future I can make it to 200 days and experience many, many more sunsets. Then, when I woke up on day 97, I gave a little more carrots to the villagers, hoping that this would work, and there it is. On day 98, after I waited for the villager breeder to run a little bit, I made a sheep farm, something that I would definitely need if I wanted as many beds as I needed. And then, after another session of AFK pretty much on the villager breeder, I went ahead and got some more sheep, dyeing them all light gray because there was a black sheep and I need all the same color. So on day 99, later in that day, I found the wandering trader from earlier and decided to take the two pale oak saplings because once I get more emeralds, then I'd be able to get two more saplings and hopefully I'll be able to get the pale oak. From there, day 99 was simple. I was expanding the island of the villager breeder. On day 100, I finally harvested the cherry grove sapling and placing it on the villager breeder, I was going to be able to collect more and more of this great type of wood. And then day 100 hit, I knew I needed to spend the last night at my base. So I hurried up and went back, but my sword broke on my boat. So this was not good, definitely, because I knew that I needed to go to bed for this to really count and wake up on day 100. And so I sprinted off into my base to spend the last night and the moonrise in my starter base, which I had worked so hard on for 75 days and more. So I'm really proud about how this went, and I hope you all enjoyed. And so far, I mean, it's been really fun making this series. And on day 100, just enjoyed the moon set and the scenery, knowing how far I came to get to this point, and the potential that the series has, and all the fun times that it brings, and the excitement of knowing that at any corner it could always just end right there. And then I went ahead and went on top of my base and had a little moment, just looking around, looking at my skin and everything. It was special, and I really enjoyed it. And I can't really emphasize that enough. It was definitely a fun challenge. I hope that you all uh, take inspiration maybe and try it yourself because it's hard, but it's a lot of fun. And then on, you know, end of day 100, it was right there, right about to go to bed, and figured I'd do a little one more walk of the base. And when I went downstairs, I was attacked by a baby zombie, and being hit twice, this was bad. I needed a way to escape, but I was back against the wall. So, after pausing for a moment, I was hit another two times, down to 4.5 hearts. I just went up the stairs and then leapt onto the crafting table from earlier, but this time I had made the parkour jump when it mattered most, killing the baby zombie, and finally, I was able to get a good night's rest from this series. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you can see when I die in this ultra hardcore. Bye.